This is the Big Bad Boot.
We're siblings who explore spooky and scary stories, urban legends, tall tales, and true crime, all located in this crazy state that's shaped like a boot. A podcast about the weird state you wish you were from.
Hosted by the weird siblings you wish you had. Today's episode is brought to you by Business Law Group. The attorneys at Business Law Group specialize in providing comprehensive legal services tailored to your growing business. From startup through rapid growth, they help your business with a formation and structuring, contracts, real estate, employment law, and trademarks. If it's related to your business, they can help. Their unique approach involves acting as fractional general counsel, allowing your business to access ongoing legal advice without the overhead of a full-time in-house lawyer. Call the Business Law Group at 504-446-6506 and schedule a consultation, or visit www.lawgroup.biz today, not .com. Get your business right, y'all, and tell them that we sent you, please.
Welcome to the Big Bad Boot. I'm Katie.
And I apparently spit when I just...
You did it again!
Jesus Christ! Okay. Well, I spit a lot.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Whatever.
Jonah, do we have spit guards we can install?
You know
Okay.
what? Don't agree with her. No.
We don't know what diseases are going around. COVID. I don't have time to get COVID. That's true. But what's been going on, buddy?
Nothing much. Just working.
As
tennis.
per usual. I recently wrapped up my first tennis season.
Yeah. You've been doing
Well,
better than I thought you'd do.
I'd started playing tennis, and I'm a very athletic person. I played softball in college. Let me tell you something about tennis. Tennis doesn't care how athletic you are.
No.
It is so much harder than it looks.
Thank you. Because when I tell people I'll play tennis, they're like, that looks so fun. And I'm like,
It's so frustrating.
it's so hard.
It's so hard. And I kind of went in with, I don't want to say I went in with a cocky attitude, but now looking back, I was like, I got it. I'm athletic. I can
If
move
Caleb
around.
can do it, I can do it.
Honestly, I had that thought. And then I got out there. I was like, this is freaking hard.
Yeah, welcome to the Thunderdome.
I told you a pregnant lady beat me.
Sure did.
Like, not a little pregnant, like 7 months pregnant. I wish I
Was she
remembered her name.
dilated as she was playing?
She kicked my butt.
Good for her.
And I was driving home, and Dad had come out to that match, and he just sitting there silent. And he goes, I wouldn't tell anybody that the lady that beat you was pregnant because that's embarrassing. And I'm like, shut up, Dad. She was really good.
Poor
But
thing.
yeah, so
But you're
it was
doing
fun.
good.
I really like
She won her first match in a tie break. It was a nail
and then I
biter.
lost every single one after that. But that's
Well,
okay.
You didn't have to say that. I was trying to end it on a positive note.
But it burns so many calories.
Oh, yeah.
It kicks your butt.
I burn like an average of like 1,200 calories a match. It's crazy.
But then, like last night after my match, I was like, oh, I deserve a little treat, and proceeded to eat like a
little
full
sweet treat.
Chick-fil-A sandwich and French fries. And so it canceled it all out. It did nothing.
Nice.
But anyway,
Well,
yeah. I heard a little birdie told me that we've gotten some emails recently.
have.
It's so
And
exciting.
I have one to read.
Yay.
I know.
Okay.
Which it's like my favorite thing to do is to like go through our emails and read, because there are a lot of story suggestions, but there's also like people just saying like, hey guys, love y'all. Love your product, man.
Love you. I love it when people compliment me.
Me too.
Keep it coming.
Well, this one
Mhm.
is from actually one of my really good friends. And like, I read the whole thing. And then when I got to her signature, I was like, oh. So this is from Corinne. And I'm sure she's listening. Corinne,
Insurance,
I love you.
Corinne?
No. Corinne Rogers. Like one of my
Oh.
favorite bartenders in Hammond, America
Oh.
at the Brewski.
That Corinne.
Mhm.
We actually know like 3 or 4 Corinnes,
We
which I
do.
know it's not a common name, but I know she no longer works at Tacos and Beer.
Right.
But when Michael and I lived like blocks away from Tacos and Beer, she was our waitress. We literally went there 3 times a week.
I love her so much. And she's dating my literal lifelong best friend now, Falcon.
Mhm.
So I love it.
Well,
Now I
hi,
get to hang out with
Corinne.
both of them. Well, she said, good evening, friends. I love listening to the Big Bad Boot podcast. I've never really been a podcast girly, but y'all have turned me into one. I heard y'all mention your email on the podcast, and I just wanted to support y'all and tell y'all that I love y'all. I just about choked on my Alani listening to the gruesome story in episode 3 that was Madame Lalaurie.
Oh, that was a tough one.
Yeah. I'm sure y'all have tons of topics already, but for the out-of-state listeners, it may be an interesting topic to talk about the Rougarou. True.
Yes.
I mean, we do use him in a lot of branding.
I feel like we're saving him for something really fun.
Probably. Maybe a live episode.
Yeah.
She says, I know that when I was a little kid, it was such a creepy story and I was super terrified of it. I'm sending y'all all of my love and all my support. Keep it up, you two. XOXO, Corinne.
Corinne, thank you so much. That was so nice.
I love her.
Oh,
She's
that was
the
very
best.
sweet, Corinne. Thank you so much. Well, any more positives? Because it's about to. This
No.
isn't that negative. It's got some negative undertones,
I'm kind of scared. I just got sweaty.
but it's a good one though. Like I gave Michael a little preview the other night, and he was like, "Actually, I'm really excited to hear the whole story."
Okay.
So
I'm kind of pumped. I mean,
All
we're
right.
not talking like as negative as like.
it's not as bad as Madame Lalaurie. Well, comparatively, I don't know.
Well-
Who am I to judge?
Well,
You know, I mean, I judge a lot of people for other stuff all the time, constantly actually, but that's okay.
it's okay.
All right, here we go. It's March 16th, 1984. What a time to be alive.
Right.
Gary Plauche, a father of 4 from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, is pacing in the terminal of the Baton Rouge Metropolitan Airport. He's waiting for a plane to land, and ultimately waiting for one person in particular to get off that plane. It's a little before 9:30 p.m., so he walks to a bank of payphones on the side of the terminal and makes a phone call to a friend. Meanwhile, another man named Jeff Doucet, he's a karate instructor. He's getting off that plane at the Baton Rouge airport. Jeff Doucet is in handcuffs and he's flanked by police officers. He had just flown back to Louisiana from California because he's facing criminal charges. As Jeff walks closer and closer towards the airport terminal, he has no idea what's about to happen. Back at the bank of payphones, Gary Plauche is on the phone with his friend. He's wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses in hopes of hiding his identity. And across the lobby, he notices news crews beginning to set up, angling their camera lenses towards the terminal where the plane is about to deboard. Jeff Doucet, the man on the plane, is still handcuffed when he gets off and he's flanked by law enforcement. He enters the airport lobby. The news cameras are all focused on him now and following him as he walks through the terminal towards the exit doors. When suddenly, Gary, who is still on his call at the bank of payphones, pulls a gun that he had been hiding in his boot, aims the gun at the right side of Jeff's head, and shoots him at point-blank range. All while news cameras capture the entire incident on live TV.
Aicha.
This is the story of the kidnapping of Jody Plauche, the murder of Jeff Doucet, and a father's act of revenge.
This is a good one.
This is a good one.
This is a good one.
Yes. Now, I do have to be a Debbie Downer, but I want to make sure we do this. I would like to issue a trigger warning
Okay.
because this episode does involve the sexual abuse of a child. So I want to make sure that I give people fair warning ahead of time. This is not a BBB episode for kiddos. Now it's time for our sources.
Okay.
An article written by Tim Brinkoff on allthat'sinteresting.com. I forgot about allthat'sinteresting.com. Like, I forget you weren't.
Yeah, I didn't
like,
frequent that website.
You weren't a teenager like in the early days of the internet.
No, I barely remember us having an old computer that would go like, beep, all
Yeah,
the
it
time.
had to like make noises. It would
Dial up.
overheat. Yeah,
We couldn't be on our landline at the time either.
right. Allthat'sinteresting.com, you would just spend hours. It was kind of like creepypasta, but a little more streamlined. You have no idea what I'm talking about, do
No.
you? Anywho.
Okay.
An episode of the Minds of Madness podcast. An episode of course, My Favorite Murder. Duh.
My girls.
And an article for The Mirror written by Jeremiah Hassel.
Okay.
All right, we got that out of the way. Let's dive into it.
All right.
So again, we're in Baton Rouge, Louisiana in the 1980s. The Plauche family consists of Gary, the dad, and the mom, June. They have 3 sons and 1 daughter. And from what I've read about Gary, he seems like he's a typical Louisiana dad.
Okay.
He's a heavy equipment salesman. He coaches his son's little league teams. He loves a cold beer. He loves the LSU Tigers. He is a typical Southern Louisiana middle-aged dad. And June was very hardworking. She was a loving mother, and she actually gave up her very promising career as a nightclub singer to get married and start their family. So she apparently was a really talented singer.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. So Gary, like I said, and June have 4 kids. Their oldest son, Jody, was very athletic. This is who this story is going to focus on. And they worked hard to make sure that he could participate in any and all sports that he wanted to as a kid. Now, his younger brother, Mikey, was not really into sports like his brother was. He is, as we say all the time, an indoor cat. Yes.
Me.
Right.
Okay.
Until a flyer was distributed at the kids' school advertising a martial arts and karate school in the area. So they signed their kids up.
I also did.
You also did karate. So we're at the karate studio now.
Okay.
The karate studio, is it called a studio, a dojo,
I think it's a dojo, but I
don't know.
was done with karate by the time I was 9.
We're going to call it a studio because I don't want to offend anybody who does karate for a living and is going to send us a mean email.
Okay, sensei.
So Jeff Doucet is an ex-Marine, and he is 24 years old when he took over the karate school. And sources say he actually lived there as well. Can't confirm that, though.
Okay. It's a little weird.
Gary and June, almost said Johnny and June, like June Carter Cash and Johnny Cash.
I want to love like Johnny and June.
Gary and June, they sign them up, and the boys take to the karate immediately. And especially they love Jeff, their coach.
Okay.
So much that they even start calling him their best friend, which is like, to me, no.
Is it cute or is it weird?
I think it's weird. But it's also probably because I know what's going to happen in this situation. Like, I don't think any child should fully believe that an adult is their only best friend.
How old are these children?
They're like under 10 years old.
Okay. I think we're feeling that because
we know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think so.
Because, I mean, I know, like, if my niece was like, you're my best friend,
Literally,
I'm
that's
like,
what I was
oh,
thinking
gosh.
I was like, all my nephews think
Right.
I'm their bestie.
But the boys take to Jeff and karate so quickly, and they're pretty good at it. And he asked them to join their elite team, which apparently was like a travel team that would go across the country to compete against other karate schools.
So he was like the Abby Lee Miller of dance. Did they have a pyramid?
Oh, that would be fun.
Right?
On the bottom of the pyramid, JoJo.
Poor JoJo.
Wait, what does she say? Please don't yell at me, I'll cry.
No, JoJo, why are you crying? If you yell at me, I'm going to cry.
If you yell at me, I'm going to cry. That
JoJo.
would be me.
She never got it together, man.
I saw somebody with a bumper sticker that I need to find. I want this for Christmas.
Okay.
It's a bumper sticker that says, please don't honk at me, I'll cry.
Okay.
I want that.
Text me after this,
okay,
and I'll get on my Amazon.
So in 1983, unfortunately, June and Gary separate. They were already having some issues, so they decide to file for divorce and separate. Okay. And sources say this was due to the tension from June having to completely give up her career to be a wife and a mom. Gary moves out, but he's still just as involved in his kids' lives as he was. And after the separation, though, Jeff, the karate teacher, starts to spend a lot more time at the Plauche house because Gary is gone. So June stayed at their home with the kids, and Gary went and lived somewhere else. I see your face. You know what's coming.
Yeah.
So at first, June likes having Jeff around and she said, quote, the kids like being with Jeff. He's kind and he's considerate. He's a good friend who provides emotional support for our family. Now, some sources rumored that Jeff and June had some romantic entanglements, but that's never confirmed. And after researching this, I don't know if I believe that either. But I do think she leaned on him for support.
Yeah, okay.
And
I could see that.
When you have 4 kids and you're by yourself.
4?
They had 4 total. So it's like if somebody who you do trust and like is a leadership figure, you're like, you want to drive my kid to karate practice? Actually, that would help me out a lot. Right. Thank you.
Because I have 3 other people that I'm responsible to keep alive.
I have to make this mac and cheese and these dino nuggets, and they're not going to make themselves.
That sounds good.
Let me talk about dino nuggets really fast.
Okay, sure.
Dino nuggets are superior to regular shaped nuggets because, and I've tested this is scientific, they crisp up better in the oven. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because they're shaped like a stegosaurus or whatever, but the shape of them, they crisp up more evenly than regular nuggets. Do the experiment yourself, get back to us, but Tyson Dino nuggets are better than the Tyson regular nuggets.
How do you... I was the past fat kid. How do I not know that?
Well, because I'm married to a man that eats nothing but the kids' menu.
I got my brother-in-law a shirt for Christmas that says, what does it say? Like, I'll have the chicken tenders.
Thanks, I'll just have the chicken tenders.
Yes.
Yeah,
My dude.
We go through a lot of Tyson chicken nuggets at our house.
Tyson, if you're listening
we're going to do that
us.
every episode until something sticks.
That's fine.
Where was I at? Okay. Chicken nuggets, June, taking care of the kids.
Yes.
And of course, when you have all those kids you got to take care of, if anybody offers to help and there's somebody that you trust, why would you not? But over time, June starts to get a little weird feeling about Jeff. And
Mother's
she even...
intuition, it's always right.
Yes. Like, if there's one thing I have learned, it's trust your gut, especially as a woman. I think women have this built-in intuition that men do not have. Trust your gut. If it seems off, it probably is.
That's true.
And she feels like Jeff is showing a bit too much attention specifically to her oldest son, Jody, who's now 11. And Jody, like we said in the beginning, he's always loved all sports. He's very athletic. But when he comes to her one day and says he wants to quit everything else and only focus on karate, she's like,
red flag.
Why?
Yeah.
Like, you love football. We literally live in one of the biggest football towns in the country.
Literally, yeah.
And you don't want to play football anymore.
Weird.
And she even goes so far as to have her brother, who worked at the sheriff's office, run a background check on Jeff. And according...
it's good to know people.
It is. Our grandma, bless her heart, she's no longer with us anymore. She worked for the sheriff's department. We did this many times.
Oh, yeah.
Every guy I ever dated, background checked.
Immediately.
Like, really. It was nice knowing everybody's business, to be honest. Actually, we didn't do any of that for legal reasons. She's KK's, they can't get her in trouble anymore. What are they going to do? We did that. KK, our grandmother looked people up and she fixed a lot of speeding tickets. But there's nothing on this guy's record. They check. There's nothing. Her brother says he has a couple speeding tickets. That's it. You don't need to be worried about it. So that kind of eases her mind for a while and things continue. And that concern subsides. So Jeff starts to spend even more time with the Plauche boys, giving them rides home from karate. And he even starts bringing them to the movies because he's saying this is part of like team building exercises that he's bringing them to the movies, which I've played on a lot of teams. No coach has ever brought me to the movies.
How is that team building to go to a movie and sit in silence? Like, go do a ropes course or whatever.
Trust falls, ropes course. Yeah. Go do some pottery. I don't know. So sometime later, Gary, the dad, hears some disturbing rumors about Jeff from the dad of another karate student who told him that Jeff had been acting inappropriately with their son.
Ooh.
Gary also finds out that there were 6 other parents with similar stories who took their kids out of the karate school and didn't know that was why they took their kids out.
Oh, see, if there's smoke, there's fire.
Mm-hmm.
That's like my rule of thumb with a lot of things.
So Gary's like, calls Jeff up and he's like, look, stay away from my family.
Right.
But being
Good old Gare Bear.
But being that they were, Gary and June were separated, I don't think that had too much weight with Jeff because he's like, okay, and what are you going to do?
Right.
Like, June lets me hang out, so y'all are getting a divorce. It doesn't matter. So he keeps hanging out over there. On February 19th, 1984, Jeff comes to the Plauche house and asks if he could take Jody on some errands and borrows June's car, which, I'm sorry.
Because what
10-year-old, 11-year-old.
Run errands.
If I have errands to run, I'm not bringing an 11-year-old with me. They're just going to slow me down.
11-year-old, I don't like. No.
And you don't want to go run errands either if you're an 11-year-old.
I don't like to do that now.
He tells her that they were installing new carpet at the karate school and he wanted Jody to see it. and that they would be back in 15 minutes, no more than 15 minutes. So June, thinking nothing sinister's going on, which again, you have to put yourself in her shoes. This is a trusted adult that's known your kids for years. Your kid loves this person. He's being helpful. He's trying to include your kid in his life. Their dad's not around anymore, or as much as he was. So she's like, yeah, sure. But as you can imagine, 15 minutes turns into an hour, then half a day, then a whole day. And
Good Lord.
Jeff and Jody still have not gotten back or called. Now, and again, this is 1984. No one had cell phones. No, they didn't. She didn't know where anybody was.
How did y'all make it?
I have no idea. How did we do anything?
I don't know. I have no idea. I can tell you right now where about 33 of my friends are right now.
I think that's a Gen Z thing. I don't track my friends like you do.
I track every friend that's I consider close to me. I can tell you where they're at right now.
Well, I'll get text messages from you randomly, and you're like, what are you doing in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, today. I was like, are you doing like...
I was there for work.
Yeah, I was like, Fidelity or Redhead Method? What are you doing?
Yeah. Yep.
You were near the old Capitol.
I sure was. I was in downtown Baton Rouge.
Yep.
Which, if you want to learn about the old Capitol building, you should listen to episode...
Huey P. Long.
I forgot the episode number. It was the one about Huey P. Long.
Yes, which, by the way, his middle name was Pierce, not Perry. Thank you, Leslie.
I like
Curtis
the name
told me that.
Pierce.
Yeah.
Like Pierce Brosnan.
Sure.
Or Pierce Morgan.
Huh.
You don't know who those people are.
Neither of them.
Great. Oh, the generational gap. It's only 6 years, but there's a gap.
Yeah.
So where are we at? Okay. So they're gone. She doesn't know where they are.
It's been a day now, right?
Yes. She's managed to find the number of Jeff's mom, who lived in Port Arthur, Texas. And Port Arthur is like 4.5 hours away from Baton Rouge.
Right. That's where Janis Joplin's from, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love
fact.
her.
Me too.
So Jeff's mom answers the phone. I imagine smoking a cigarette, watching Maury, the talk show. And she's like, yep, they're here. They're at my house. They got here a while ago. They're spending the night. And Jeff said he's going to bring Jody home first thing in the morning. And June's like, okay, nobody thought to call me. Nobody was going to tell me where they were going.
This dude just brought my child across
4 hours away.
State lines.
Right.
That's weird.
So I'm sure we've all gathered by now, you and everybody listening, that he would not be bringing Jody back home the next morning like his mom said he was going to. He was actually planning on taking Jody to California, 1,800 miles away.
Why weren't the cops called immediately?
I've asked myself that, but I think back then it was a little different from the stance of the communication, meaning we weren't immediately connected to people with phones and stuff all the time. So I think the mom's mind didn't go to worst case scenario immediately, where she was like, maybe they went there and he couldn't call me, and I don't know what was going on in her brain.
Like, why go there? Like, that's just ugh.
I don't know.
Weird.
But I think she had to take him at his word. She had to be like, oh, because if you're a parent, I don't think you want to imagine worst case scenario either.
Right.
Because then you're going to drive yourself crazy.
True.
Because she's still in the mindset of like, this is Jeff. This is karate coach Jeff. And he's not going to do anything to my kid. It is now time for the portion of the podcast called Stop Embarrassing Yourself. You're pronouncing that wrong. Caleb, what is your word of the day?
So my word of the day is kind of fun because people below I-10 pronounce it one way. People above I-10 pronounce it the other way. So we live above I-10.
Mm-hmm.
So we say P-row,
which
is like a small boat, like almost like a canoe, but a little bit bigger. And it is spelled.
Now he needs his paper.
Please hold.
Hold a little longer. Hold a little longer.
Pirogue. So north of I-10 people say P-row. Every person I know from below I-10 says pirogue.
Pirogue. I like the second one better.
Me too. Makes me sound more Louisiana.
But that is just a little boat, little flat boat that You doesn't have a motor on it. You
No,
paddle
you're
it.
paddling. We have one. We have an old brown one.
We do have it.
I accidentally sank it in the pond one time, but got it back. And we put some of that Flex Seal on that hole. Man,
It works.
It ain't been steadier ever. I'd get in that P road right now and cross the Tangipahoa River.
Flex Seal, if you're listening.
Hit us up.
Wasn't that guy kind of crazy? Or no, that was the ShamWow guy. Do you remember the ShamWow guy?
Yeah, I to this day will put on YouTube like as seen on TV 90s infomercials for funsies. Because there's certain stuff that I'm just like, I wanted that so bad.
And you pick on me
That's cool.
for listening to the Disney Sirius XM channel.
Well,
And you actively seek out 90s infomercials on YouTube for fun.
it's just cool because there were certain things I wanted.
Okay, what did you want?
bad.
What are one of the things you wanted
And
so
what
bad?
is so funny, I was playing with one of my nephews the other day, one of my friend's kids, Clay. He pulled out kinetic sand.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like so pumped because I wanted that so bad as a kid. And I could never convince mom and dad to get it.
We never got any of those TV toys though.
No,
Like,
which don't cry us a river.
Yeah, we're fine.
We had an amazing childhood. But like, it's big like shtick on their commercial was like, it doesn't stick to your hands.
Mhm.
It doesn't make it. I'm here to tell you, it doesn't. It does not. And as a 27-year-old that was born in the 90s,
do you want me to get you some kinetic sand for Christmas?
I'm like Alfonso, Haley, y'all can go on a date. I'll chill with Clay. We're gonna play with kinetic sand.
Mm-hmm. What did you make in kinetic sand?
So we built a car dealership and we played car salesman. He gave me like made his first transaction with it, and he went, "Oh, my first sale!" It was the cutest little thing ever.
Oh, he is so cute.
He's the bomb.
You know what I wanted? I forgot what it was called, but it was
What
this.
an encyclopedia.
Get off the book thing. A lot of people read books. I'm not weird because I read books. You're just jealous because I know words. I wanted that sponge thing that like it made all the different colors in one swipe. What was that called? Do you know what I'm talking about?
It was like a color thing. It was like a marker.
Volcano blowing thing?
Or that. That was another thing where it was a marker you blew into and it made like an airbrush effect.
Yeah.
Which
I
I'm
have
sure
one of those.
was full of chemicals that we
Or
all
the
inhaled.
The UFO balloon things.
Ooh, that's another goodie.
Caleb,
That's a
I take
goodie.
it back. I support you for watching them.
Right?
I take it back. I'm
Next
sorry.
time I'm over there, do you want me to ask Clay and Alfonso and Haley if it's okay if you come play with kinetic sand?
I would love to play with the kinetic sand, please.
They'll let
Well, I can't say anything because you know what I've been doing in my free time.
you. Yeah, making
I've been making
Clay-
air dry clay
air
magnets.
dry clay stuff. Yeah.
And nobody, y'all keep your comments to yourselves because when we all find out I'm a clay magnet prodigy,
Wait,
you have the picture of them. I made little magnetic donuts, strawberries, and hot dogs for our refrigerator. And they look awesome. And I say that proudly.
the donut
Is awesome.
does look really good, I have to say.
It took me 3 days.
Katie.
Well, no, you got to make it, let it dry. That's a whole day. Like you got to shape it. Then you got to paint it, let it dry. That's 24 hours. Then you got to put sealant on it. That's 24 hours.
Is it Flex Seal?
No, it's Mod Podge.
Oh.
And then you got to put the magnet on it with some E6000 glue, and then it's ready. So
Okay.
there's going to be a lot of people getting magnets for Christmas.
Am I one of them?
Do you want some? I'm going to take that as a no.
I'm trying to think if I even have a magnetic. Actually, yes.
You
I'll
want
take
some?
for work. Yeah.
And they're going to be themed to the person. So
Oh,
like dad's going to
cool.
get a little bee and a little honeycomb.
Okay.
You'll get,
A microphone and a car.
I might try to sculpt a middle finger, but I don't know if I can do that. But
Some of my coworkers would love that. Some of them would be like, what?
that's how do we get on that?
Oh, the word of the day was P-Rock.
Oh yeah, the word of the day was Piro. But I understand your question because I think in our minds now today where we know where everybody is at all times, we're like, why would you do that?
Oh, yeah. Because in 40 minutes, I would have been like, track, boom. where
Right.
are you? Like,
And Jeff had told Jody that they were going on an adventure and he was going to take him to Disneyland. And so, like, what 11-year-old is going to argue
about Disneyland?
About going to Disneyland?
This 27-year-old wouldn't.
Right. Because I'd love a free trip to Disneyland.
Absolutely.
Because let's say maybe Jody was like, I think I want to go home. I want to go see my mom. He's like, but no, wait, I'm taking you to Disneyland. That kid's going to be like, okay, cool. No problem.
Right. Sure.
Cool. I'm fine.
Okay. I could see it.
So Jody, who is now a full-grown man he recalls this time in an episode of the Minds of Madness podcast. And he says, quote, that Monday, Jeff spent trying to gather money to buy our bus tickets to California. I think he went to his mom's house to get a fake ID, maybe to get his brother's birth certificate or something, so that when he got to California, he could get a driver's license in his brother's name, because I found out later he was actually on the run. I don't think his mom knew that he was planning to take me to California. So Jody says now he didn't think Jeff's mom in Port Arthur knew what was happening. Like, I don't think she knew he was planning to take him to California.
Okay.
And they didn't know at the time that Jeff is obviously having some kind of psychotic episode.
Obviously.
And he's on the run to California.
Yeah. Okay.
Meanwhile, while they're in Port Arthur, June decides, I'm getting in a car and I'm driving from Baton Rouge to Port Arthur because I'm going to find my kid.
Okay.
And by the time she gets there, though, they're gone. And she spends the next 4 days trying to get in touch with them from Jeff's mom's house in Port Arthur. And neither of them know where they went. They can't get in touch with them. So she finally cracks and calls Gary, the dad.
Oh my gosh. I bet he wanted to kill her.
I'm sure he wanted to go through the roof.
Wow.
Because I think that's something else we also forget is they were estranged. So
yeah, they were divorced, right? Or separated?
They were separated.
Okay.
So I don't think she wanted to cause any more drama than was necessary. She probably was like, I'm not going to call him unless I have to. I'm not going to call him unless I have to. And then she probably finally got to a point where she was like, crap, I don't know where my kid's at. I'm going to have to call Gary.
Ooh.
So then, of course, once Gary's involved, the FBI and police get called immediately.
Okay.
Now we're back with Jeff and Jody.
Okay.
They're on the way to California. They get on a bus. And that's a long bus ride. They take a bus all the way from Port Arthur, Texas to Anaheim, California.
Which Port Arthur, Texas is almost in Louisiana.
Right.
Like, it's not far.
It is. It took them days.
Ugh.
And along the way, in the bathroom of the bus, Jeff shaves off his beard and then dyes Jody's blonde hair black so Jody could pass as his son more easily. So that's wild. That's when you're like, okay.
Like, even as an 11-year-old, I'd be like, what's going on?
Right.
Okay.
Days go by and the Plauche family has heard zero, radio silence. They have no idea where they are, so the FBI taps their home phone.
Okay.
Thank God Jeff finally calls. He gets on the phone with June, and Jeff tells June over the phone, don't tell anybody I'm calling, which, of course, the FBI, it looks like us right now with headphones, and they're listening to every word.
Okay, genius.
Jeff begs June to come out to California. He says, bring the boys out here, get all of their things, get their school transcripts. So it sounds like he's, again, having a psychotic break, and he's wanting to, like, start over in California, and he wants them to come with him. So while he's saying this, she's looking at the FBI people, and they tell her, go along with it.
Right.
Keep him talking. So she acts like she's interested.
Okay.
And she's like, I think I want to, but, you know, me and Gary are separated, and I'm scared if I take the kids out of state, he's going to use that against me in court proceedings for custody. And she says, but please bring Jody back because I don't want Gary to use this against me in the divorce proceedings.
Okay.
Which I'm like, that was a good.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Like, that's really believable.
He does not. Okay. So on February 29th, so this is 10 days later from when they originally left their house saying they were going to look at carpet. They're gone 10 days.
Yahtzee.
On February 29th, Jeff allows little Jody to finally call his mom and talk to her. And from that call, cops are finally able to trace their call to the Samoa Motel in Anaheim, California, which is like 3 blocks away from Disneyland.
The word motel.
I know.
Just sounds icky.
FBI agents raid the room and they arrest Jeff without incident. Like he kind of almost goes willingly. They had no issues.
Good.
Jody's returned home safely, and Jeff is indicted for aggravated kidnapping, which at the time they're like, this is all this is kidnapping. We've won. He's safe. He's not hurt. We're not really sure why his hair's different, but he's alive. So they're like, praise God, because usually when kids go missing, it does not end up that they get found.
No, and me and you are so true crime obsessed. Like, that's not all that happened. Why is a grown man kidnapping a little boy?
We're getting there.
Right, like, crazy.
So the FBI, they interview little Jody, and he's 11.
That's horrible.
In his mind, this man is his best friend.
Okay.
Who he loves, who he idolizes, who he doesn't want to get in trouble. And along the way, or when he was questioned, Jody did not tell anybody what Jeff had been doing to him.
Oh, gosh.
But after investigators who were, of course, professionals at doing this kind of investigation, and they questioned him, they quickly realized that Jeff had been grooming Jody and molesting him for a long time. And
Lord have mercy.
Jody shared that things got progressively worse and worse, and Jeff got really good at testing boundaries with him. I'm not going to go into detail. If you're interested, you can go.
Please don't.
If you're interested, why? But I'm not going into detail. All you need to know is that Jeff, over time, started to molest Jody on a regular basis.
Okay, so this wasn't just a one trip.
No.
It had been happening prior.
It was over time, yes.
Okay.
Jody did not tell anybody. And when he talks about this now, he says, I didn't want to get my best friend in trouble.
Right.
I didn't want to be a tattletale.
Right.
And that I did hate what he was doing to me, and I did not like it, but I still loved Jeff, and he also did nice things for me.
Right.
Like, he took me to Disneyland.
Yeah. So in his 11-year-old little brain, he doesn't know any better. Yeah.
Jeff openly tells investigators what he's been doing to Jody. Like, almost like, yep, that's correct. Everything the kid said is true. And he claims that it was because he was molested as a child. That was his reasoning behind why he was doing this, which I hate that excuse.
Me too.
There's a lot of people who have gone through that and don't end up doing that.
Right. Like, go get help, which is easier said than done. I understand.
And I hate that happens to anybody.
Right. But don't pay that bad experience forward.
Right. So Jeff remains in jail in California until he can be extradited back to Louisiana in March.
Gotcha.
Investigators are like dreading telling Jody's parents about this because it's like the highest of highs. Their son is back safe. He's alive.
But all this horrible BS has been going on for probably a year.
Right. And thankfully, this man named Mike Barnett, who was a Baton Rouge sheriff's major, was friends with Gary outside of all this. They already knew each other. And he also helped track down Jeff when they went to California.
Okay.
Mike volunteers and says, I will tell Gary about what's going on. And according to Barnett, Gary had, quote, the same reaction most parents do when they find out their children have been raped or molested. Gary was horrified. And Gary tells Barnett, I'll kill that SOB, quote.
Good for Gary.
So remember that. Gary, that was his immediate response was, I'll kill that SOB.
Work.
Guess what? Okay. So let's get to the shooting that we talked about at the very beginning. I like Gary.
Me too.
Like, the whole time I was researching this, I'm like, this is Kelly Morse. This is Dad.
Yeah, and me.
I mean,
I'd kill somebody.
The way that Gary, responded to questions, even down to the way Gary dressed, I'm like, this is our dad. This is every man in our family. It's like we could be related to this man, which I'm sure a lot of our listeners could say the same thing.
Right.
So though his son had been found, Gary is, of course, a mess when he finds out this. Mm-hmm. And he spent the next few days inside a local bar called the Cotton Club, which I did some research on this place. It's no longer there, but apparently this was like the spot back then. It was a restaurant and a bar, and it was kind of like a place you went. That was the who's who in Baton Rouge, is who would go there and hang out.
Okay.
On March 16th, Gary's at the Cotton Club. and he sees an old colleague from WBRZ news station who happened to be out for a drink at the same time as he was. Gary actually used to work for this news station as a cameraman, so they knew each other.
Oh, okay.
And they began talking about what's going on. The guy's like, so glad your kid's safe. We've been following this, thank God your kid's back, blah, blah, blah. And this person from WBRZ actually gets on the payphone at the bar, calls the news station, and asks when Jeff Doucet's flight is supposed to land, and he tells Gary.
Ooh.
Yep. And he tells Gary Jeff is going to be flown in that night on an American Airlines flight. So what do you think Gary did?
So he's a little liquored up at this point, too. So he's like, whatever.
He slams the rest of his drink, he gets his
Boom.
keys, and he leaves.
Hops in his Edsel and rolls out.
Yeah. So
Man.
he drives to the Baton Rouge airport, and he enters the arrivals hall wearing a baseball cap and a pair of sunglasses. I don't want to make light of this situation, but Gary's outfit on this night, you can look this up, his entire outfit would easily be sold on TikTok Shop right now.
Oh, yeah. It's like,
It is he has 19...
because now it's vintage.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has 1970s aviator sunglasses, like the faded brown colored ones. And then those
Like
hats.
the trucker hat.
A trucker hat that has the rope at the top.
Yep.
And a collared striped shirt, tucked in, belt, tight blue jeans, and cowboy boots.
Nice.
Like textbook Louisiana man in the 1980s.
And now, like, a lot of frat boys. Look
Yes,
exactly
that now
like that.
people want to dress like this
100%.
and pay a lot of money to try to dress like that.
Right.
So he's there for a while. He's got to kill some time. He gets a cup of coffee. He grabs a beer at the airport bar. Then he walks over to the bank of phones and he makes a call. And while he's pacing the airport, the WBRZ news crews get there and they set up their cameras because all of these crews are there to capture the moment this essentially child molester is getting off the plane. So when they pass by Jeff and the cops, he's still handcuffed. Gary Plauche is still on the phone with his friend, and his back is towards the cameras.
Yep. I can see this scene happening in my head. I've seen it so many times.
He says into the phone, I'm pulling the gun out of my boot, and you're going to hear a shot. You can hear him say this on camera. He then pulled a gun from his boot and shot Jeff in the head while cameras caught the entire thing on live TV.
Good for Gary.
He doesn't even hang up the phone when he's shooting the gun.
Good for Gary.
Good for Gary.
Yep.
On YouTube, over 20 million people over the years have watched how Doucet collapsed and how Barnett, who was the cop, remember, that told Gary everything that happened, he quickly tackles Plauche to the wall and he screams, "Why, Gary? Why'd you do it?" You can hear that on the camera too.
Tell me Gary did not go to jail.
Just wait.
Okay. Because I don't know that. I don't know that part.
And when they ask him, "Why, Gary? Why'd you do it?" Gary is in tears and he says, "If somebody did it to your kid, you'd do it too."
Boom.
Jeff is rushed to the hospital and dies the next day, and Gary is arrested. I feel like you almost want to say boo.
Yeah, I was about to go boo about the dead man.
So this quickly becomes national news. Gary's now facing murder charges and he's awaiting trial, so he's in jail. It reminds me of Cat Williams where he's like, prison and jail are not the same thing.
That's true.
He's in jail. He's waiting to go to trial. He tells his lawyer, get into this name, Foxy Sanders. Drag name, I call it.
Foxy Sanders.
Foxy Sanders.
Okay.
He tells his lawyer, I didn't want him to do it to other kids.
Good for Gary.
Which, fun fact about Foxy Sanders, he later becomes Judge Foxy Sanders, and he would later be indicted in the early 2000s with Governor Edwin Edwards in the huge insurance fraud and bribery case. Gotta love Louisiana.
Louisiana politics will never get it together.
Never, ever.
Like, if you look at a list, I bet you more Louisiana politicians have ended up in jail
than otherwise. Yep. So
crazy.
That was a fun little factoid to find out.
Come on, Foxy.
Foxy Sanders.
Damn it.
That's a great drag name. So although Plauche killed a child molester, murder is still murder in the eyes of the law. And he had to be put on trial. But it was not clear on whether he would go to prison or he would go free. And Sanders, his lawyer, was adamant that Gary would not spend a single day in jail once the world learned how carefully Jeff Doucet had gone about grooming his son.
Okay.
Sanders also admitted Gary into a psychiatric hospital, arguing that Jody's kidnapping had pushed his father into a, quote, psychotic state in which he was no longer capable of distinguishing right from wrong.
Let's see, Kelly Morse would have been like, it's the most sane thing I've ever done.
Yep.
Like,
I've never been clearer.
oh my gosh.
Yep. Lad would have been like, I heard angels singing while I was doing it. Like, you know, which I feel like Gary was probably the same way.
I could have a beer with Gary.
Oh, yeah. It was hard to find somebody in Baton Rouge or anywhere that was not on Gary's side.
Good.
It was, most people were like, yep, I'd have done the same thing.
Good.
A local bartender named Linda Boyd was quoted in the Washington Post, which if Linda is still alive, I want to hang out with Linda.
Okay.
She's a bartender in 1980s Baton Rouge.
Man.
She's a hoot.
Oh, yeah. She never not had a cigarette in her mouth, probably. Good. Okay.
She says, I'd have shot him too if he'd done what they said he done to my boys. Only I would have gut shot him 3 or 4 times and he would have suffered a little before he died. I love you, Linda.
Man.
Listen,
Linda.
Linda.
Do you want to dance? That's a good, man. Good for her.
Not only did she say, yeah, I would have shot him, I'd have gut shot him.
She's like, I would have done it worse.
Yes.
Linda would have had fun with it.
So once, of course, the media is going to eat this up.
Yeah.
Because the media is like, oh, this is drama. We're going to interview as many people as we can.
This is tea.
But this is a major dilemma for the legal system because anybody can sympathize with Gary from a parent's perspective. But what does this mean legally? Like, what precedent does this set for our justice system? And this was the question that the lawyers had to try to answer and the judges had to try to answer. Because if you and this was a hypothetical situation somebody posed, if you let him go free, everybody's just going to start revenge killing everybody for anything. So you could see how legally this was tough. I would have hated to have been the prosecutor against Gary.
Yes.
Because you're like,
in my opinion, if you're a child molester, why are we keeping you alive?
Yeah.
Why is tax dollars keeping you alive?
Yeah. It's one of those things that I'm like, I'll let people who are much smarter than me with law degrees figure that out.
That's true.
Meanwhile, little Jody, who I hate that so many of these things focus on everything else besides this little boy who all these horrible things happen to.
Through it.
He's having to deal with a lot of stuff. It is trauma on trauma on trauma on trauma. So on one hand, the man who did these horrible things is gone. Okay, great. But he was shot in the head on live TV and everybody knows what he did to you. And not only that, your dad's the one that shot him and now your dad's in jail.
Yeah, so it's a lot.
So he's like, I just wanted my dad back.
Ugh.
So he's just getting re-traumatized over and over and over again. Here's the fun part.
Okay.
In the end, Gary Plauche walked away from his murder trial with only 5 years probation and 300 hours of community service.
Boom.
He did not serve a single day in prison for murdering Jeff Doucet.
There you go, Gare.
In fact,
good for him.
He told people publicly many times he would do it again.
Good.
So Gary and June actually get back together after all this happens. And they lived a pretty normal life for decades after. And he died in 2014 from a stroke when he was in his late 60s. Gare Bear.
Man, I would have had a few beers.
I'm telling y'all, go look up. This is morbid, but go look up his fit from when he shot this man. Y'all all will go order it tomorrow. There will be 10 men at the bar this weekend dressed like that.
Southeastern tailgate I go to, it's going to be a bunch of Garys.
Gare Bears.
Yeah.
So here's a little bit of what happened afterwards.
Okay.
Jody appeared on his first talk show in 1991, which detailed what happened to him. And shortly after it aired, he got a call from the Baton Rouge Sheriff's Department who told them that his TV interview had inspired other young boys to come forward and detail the abuse they had suffered at the hands of a local pastor. And that local pastor was arrested and charged.
Nice.
So Jody says, quote, "That's the moment I decided I'm not going to be quiet anymore, and I'm going to keep raising awareness.
Okay.
I'm going to keep speaking out, and hopefully I can make a difference." So it was there that he launched his career. He is now a public speaker and an activist.
Good for him.
I know. I love that about Jody.
Yeah.
Jody's now almost 60. He wrote a book called Why Gary Why, which details his
Yeah.
experience, which is what the cop yelled at his dad. He's worked with police departments, schools, hospitals, and parents on how to spot and deal with children who may be experiencing sexual abuse and not saying anything.
Good for Jody.
And despite what happened to him, he said his life turned out wonderfully and he would not trade it for anything.
Oh.
In an interview with The Mirror, he said, quote, "I hope to let victims know that if you've been through something like that, with proper support, you will be okay. You can turn your life around. You are not scarred for life. You are not damaged goods. Your innocence may have been taken, but for the most part, you are going to be okay." And that is the story of Gary and Jody Plauche in a father's form of justice.
Good for Gary and good for Jody. And Jody, if you're listening,
we love you.
I'll buy you a beer.
We would love to buy you a beer. Come on down to
Wow.
Ponchatoula, Louisiana, and we would love to hang out with you. We love what you're doing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And thank you for everything that you do. But I remember hearing this story from My Favorite Murder. That was the first time I'd ever heard this story when I heard that episode of that podcast.
Really?
And I could not believe I'd never heard this story before.
Because I can't tell you where I heard it, but
Well-
I've known about it for years.
And I had a conversation with our dad about it, and he was like, "I remember when that happened." He's like,
Oh,
"I remember that's all people talked about for weeks."
What year was it?
1984. So it is just one of those things that I feel like Louisiana residents of a certain age all know about.
Good for, hey.
Yeah.
Good on you.
Gare Bear, we love you.
Good for him, man.
Love you and what you stand for and your outfits.
Fashion icon.
It's hard. It's hard to say what you would do if that happened to your
Not
kid.
me. Not hard at all.
You're like, "Yep, I'm doing what Gary did."
Yeah, I don't even have kids. I don't even want kids. But like, do it to like my, any of my nephews, I'd kill somebody.
It's just, that's tough. You know, like when we hear so many episodes of podcasts and we watch all these things on TV, it kind of gets watered down. And it's like,
Yeah,
until
but if
this
you
happens
think
to
about
your
it,
child,
ugh.
nobody knows what they would do.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I just love that Gary was like, he's going to be where? At what time? Okay, cool. Bet.
Got it. Yeah.
See y'all in a little bit.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
So that was fun. I enjoyed it.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Well, thank you. I know it was like tough to listen to, but I feel like it had some poetic justice at the end. I love Gary. I stand for Gary Plauche.
Me too. Good for them.
And Jody. Thank you for all the cool work you do, Jody. If you
And
want to come ever hang out in Ponchatoula, let us know.
Come on down, dude. We got you.
Yeah. So thank y'all for listening. We appreciate it. This podcast is like the coolest thing ever.
It's so fun. I look forward to it so much.
I meet new people every day for work, and I had somebody today, didn't know him from Adam, and they're like, "I'm sorry, do you have a podcast?" And I was like,
boy, do I.
Boy, do I. Let me talk to you about it for 4 hours. We're having so much fun. Thank y'all so much for listening.
Yeah, we love you guys.
We're going to keep doing this till the wheels fall off or until one of us murders each other in familicide. So.
Big word.
Do you know what that means?
Killing your family.
Yes. Familicide.
That was an easy one
That was an easy one
to put together, but anyway. Well, remember.
God made you.
And the Rougarou too.
So be kind to one another.
Bye.
Bye.
The Big Bad Boot is produced by Lettuce Media and edited by Mallory and Jonah.
Our music was produced by Macro Tracks. Our super cool logo was designed by AWC Graphics. And our sense of humor and childhood trauma was sponsored by Kelly and Abby Morse.